Our lecture today is related to basics of Java collections, especially to ArrayList. Then we will talk a bit about files. So very briefly, I would like to cover this topic and give you some pieces of advice how to deal with your data with use of files. And then we will jump into UML class diagrams and questions of software design and how to combine all that object-oriented stuff all together to make some complex, interesting applications. This is our quite huge plan for today. So let's start. I would like to propose you to work today just with code. That's why I'm just sharing this. I'm sharing my screen, and just in a moment we'll make it a bit bigger for your convenience. And first of all, so let's start to ArrayList. This is such a data type like ArrayList. So when I want to declare variable of ArrayList, what I do, I just declare the type. And this is the class, basically. That's why you know how we create instances of the class. I just created ArrayList, and let me comment that. So first of all, when I use ArrayList, IDE helps me and import this implementation of this ArrayList, so that's why I could access that. Then we have very interesting syntax. So before I jump into that, let me explain the idea. Why do we basically need that ArrayList? ArrayList is very similar to arrays, but have a lot of cool features which arrays have no. For example, what the most annoying stuff in arrays? What do you think? Fixed size. Exactly. This is the most annoying stuff. So you could not just dynamically change that, add element, remove element. This is the most annoying. And with ArrayList, we could solve exactly this problem and many other interesting applications. So that's why we jump to this ArrayList. ArrayList, bless you, ArrayList is a part of Java collection framework. And there are also different other data structures. But today we will talk only about ArrayList, and you could consider that like just substitution for arrays. So first of all, let me just jump into implementation. I jump into this ArrayList implementation. When I click command and click to data type, I have this. I have source code here. Maybe if you jump in your IDE, you will not have maybe all these beautiful explanations. I don't know why so comments just the same size, but I have this code here. So maybe you have know this explanation, and you will be proposed to download Java source codes for that. And when you download, you will have the same picture as I have. But the main idea, what I want to show you, the main stuff, is this member of this class. So we have, what do we have here? We have class ArrayList. You know what is class. So this is class. This class is extending abstract list. So we already touched this question that classes could be ancestors of other classes, and we could extend, like make children from parent class. So we will not touch this subject very deep here in this course, but we will touch that later. So we have property in this class, and this property named element data. What type of this property? Please tell me. Oh, thank you. Array of objects. So the main point, this is array. So under the hood, ArrayList still use arrays, but help us not to bother ourselves with this changing size of arrays and do all of that stuff here under the hood. Okay, what is object? I didn't mention that before, but trick is that every class in Java is ancestor or descender, like child of object. On the top of hierarchy of every class, we have object. We do not declare that directly, but when you declare any class, that class is a child of object. So object, this is kind of very default object. We could, by the way, jump into that. This is the object, and still some code here, but it is more comments than code. So it has few methods and like very simple constructor and few methods. So, but the main idea that we still have array under the hood, and this array and work with this array encapsulated in ArrayList, and we use this ArrayList as a black box and do not bother ourselves with any questions in regard to dynamic size of the array. Next, okay, I will come back in a moment to explain what integer means, because you already know int, but what is the integer then? Good question. I will back in a moment, but I want to show you some functionality so you kind of feel that. So please add, let add element 10, let add one more element, 20 for example, let add 30, let remove. Finally, we have this functionality. Wow, what a beautiful functionality. Remove which index, which element do you want to remove? So first one, like 0, first, second. So we should pass index here, so index 1. And after that, we could make this beautiful for each loop. So by the way, I could use int here and list. I don't like this new line. And let output information element by element. And again, we come with the we don't need access elements by index because we already have this element A. So we could do it like this. We just traverse this list and get elements. So I will run the program. So you see that we have 10 and 30, and we have no 20 because we removed that. Yes, exactly, of course. Everything in programming world starts with 0. Not in every language, not in Pascal, for example, yeah, but in Java, just consider 0 as a first index. Let me create one more for to show you that how it works, how we get elements by index, and what other elements or methods do we have. So we need length or size. We call it size here, not length. And now I could access elements, and I use this syntax here. Not square brackets, but method get and pass index here. So we have, let me just put, yes, thank you. Exactly. And we run it. So you see this, the same functionality. Of course, this for each loop is much more beautiful, but I want you just to show that we have method size and we have method get to access element by index. So this is how we use arrays and array lists, and you already see that beautiful stuff. Remove, add, get element, and size. Enough, these features are enough to create all you need with arrays. Okay, it is for you to know, but let's come back to syntax. And you should be very precise people, like a programmers. You should have answers for every symbol in your code. So what that mean? Two questions here. What this stuff means, this angle brackets. This is just a question for just announcing the questions. And second, what integer means. Wow, what is that? Okay, what is angle brackets? Yeah. What?
I'm not sure, but if you think about integer, I didn't look at the topic of this lecture, but maybe it means that the values that we import, that we have written are integer values, maybe, but not 100%.
Yeah, this is data type for our collection. This is exactly. But okay, first question, what angle brackets means? So I introduced that for you. Yeah, Yaroslav. Yeah, some reflections on HTML. Yeah, so. Yeah. So in many languages, we have this beautiful functionality called generics. Generics. In C++, we call it templates, as I remember. So the essence of that you could know, this is kind of parameters. You remember parameters for methods, right? Arguments to methods. So you pass some value, you don't know what exactly, and this is argument for further functionality. We could pass as an argument data type. So this is kind of argument of data type, which data type our collection will store. Because we could store integer, we could store strings, we could store double, we could store any custom object. So we should tell compiler in Java that in this particular array list, we will store integer. So the ability to pass data type into some structure, into some object, we call it generics. I don't want to bother you much with this stuff. We will jump into that in next course. But for you to know, many languages have these generics, and these angle brackets especially used in most cases to implement that generics. So when I jump into ArrayList declaration, you see that I have this generics here, and it is just E. So some unknown data type. I will get this data type, and then I build my many methods related to this data type. So let me search for E here. One, so of course a lot of E. Not so interesting. Let me find somewhere one more, T, another. So here, for example, element data, come on. And we have E also here as a data type. Okay, now let's pause. Let's continue. So we just explained what generic means. Now let's jump into integer. What in the world is integer? We already have int. What is integer? Let me jump into declaration of these data types. So again, command click, and I jump into this integer class. So again, one more class. To be sincere, this class is quite long, very, very long. But all the idea of this integer class is just to be wrapper on value of int. Just one single value of int. I even believe that somewhere here we could find this value, because this class is extending number. Maybe number has some. So anyway, the idea of integer is just to provide wrapper class above single integer value. You could ask, why do we need that? We need that because we use collections, and collections could have only values set of object values, of class values. So let me again jump into this collection and remind you that we have an array of what? Of objects, and just primitive data type int is not object. That's why we could not use just int here. We need to have substitution for int in object kind of type. That's why in Java, to solve this problem, to work with collections, because again, you should understand, why do we basically need that? Because when you have collection and you have objects elsewhere in the memory, you remember how objects created, and then you combine all these objects into set of array values. So we basically have references to all of these objects in array, basic array under the hood of ArrayList. Yeah, we have this array, and this is references to that objects. And if you want just to remove this value, we simply very easy destroy this object in memory. And yes, we should recreate maybe this sequence in array, but we could easily manipulate dynamically with this objects in memory and so on and so forth. So this is somehow explains, and of course not only this, but there are a lot of other tricks and methods. We just need to have object, reference data type, to execute all of that operations. So that's why Java developers, they decided to do this trick. Okay, we have primitive data types, int, double, and all that stuff. We will create mapping data types like wrappers, and we will automatically substitute int and integer. Let me show it. For example, here, this is just 10. This is just primitive integer type. This is not. So I could write it like this, new integer, and put into constructor 10. This is the object. What's the problem here? So anyway, this is the object, but basically I just use int. This is not the object. How it works? Because Java automatically substitute wrapper classes with primitive types and primitive types with wrapper classes to allow collections work properly. Let me show you this one more time. I declare variable of int a1 equals 10. So you know exactly that this data type is int, not integer. And I put a1 here, and it will work. It's not a problem. It is absolutely fine. Or let me use again int and get value to that variable. List, and for example, get first element, for example. So result of this get method is this integer value, not int. But there is not a problem of, okay, here I have some, this is just hint, I need to deactivate that additional plugin in my IntelliJ, but I will run it to show you that there is no problem here. So everything is working, no error. So I just get integer object and put this integer object into int value, and there is no problem. In Java, it is called autoboxing and unboxing. So here we have autoboxing. So we have box. This is int value, but it is boxed with integer class. So here we have autoboxing. We automatically create integer object here, And here we have unboxing, when we take this int value and put just into int variable. So we unbox this integer object and pass that, transfer that into int value. Does it make sense? Any questions regarding that? Yeah. Okay. So for you to know, wrapper classes, autoboxing, unboxing. I suppose in regard to ArrayLists, we have everything we need. Let me just create one more ArrayList to show you that we could use any other type. For example, of course, string. And let me add something. String list, add, and again, hello. For example, world. And of course, I could access this string list. For example, I want to access last element. How to do that? Size. But first get. Then, what should I put here? String list, exactly. Size, exactly. And -1, because we start counting from 0. Let me make it a little bit more clear here. And I want to output last element. Worlds, why worlds? Okay. And we have these worlds basically. So we access last element. Okay. Any questions regarding ArrayLists? Seems to be very comprehensive and understandable stuff. Yeah, so get is a kind of substitution for square brackets with array. So in case of array, we would have something like that to access element like number 1, for example. But with ArrayList, we could not use these brackets. Just it is impossible because it is object and there is no way to do that. So that's why we could use specific method get, and we pass index of element. Okay? And we get the same, like we get this value. And by the way, I could jump into this get and see what we have here. So we check, first of all, we do some check. Is it inbound? Is it no error? And then we return, we call another method element data. And this element data, basically, what do you see here? We just accessed that low-level array by index. We have under the hood the same syntax, square brackets and index and access to the array, low-level array. But for the outer world, we provide this kind of beautiful interface and to substitute that square brackets. Okay? Fine. Any other questions? Okay. Next, what I want to show you. Change the topic. Let's move now to files. Files is really cool stuff. We could store our program status. We could renew that status when we run the program maybe tomorrow and we have an access to that previous data. So files is amazing stuff. So how to use files? Okay, let me maybe create file example. File example. Okay. Let me make it bigger. Okay. So let's try to to save into file some information. How to do that? Okay, let's start with working with, again, some specific system objects. So first object is file output stream. File output stream. So we create object of this. Yes, we need to import, and it is automatically imported. File output stream. So I call this variable with the same name as a class, but from a small letter. And create, of course, using constructor, new output stream. So I call constructor of this system-specific class system object. So what I should put into this constructor? I put name of the file, my file txt, for example. Okay. So we should add exception. So I will add, this is another topic I should explain you, and I don't want to. So that's why I will be concise. When we access some files, we touch the outer world, there could be many various errors, and we should react to that errors. How to react to errors? This is exceptions. This is kind of, you remember this awful experience of using of operating system, of Windows operating system when you do something and then boom. You remember that? So this is awful, like exception handling in Windows, and this awful sound, and you have this error, and maybe you have many errors on your screen with that model boxes. Do you know what I'm talking about? So this is one of the like cases when error arise, and we should either push this arrow into face of our user, or make it silent and handle it somehow. But programs always could have, like, technical systems when they interact with each other. We always will have some exceptions, some exceptional situations. So to handle that, we have exceptions, and Java require us to handle that exception somehow, somewhere. When you access file system, you could possibly have exception. And that's why we added this throw file not found exception into our method signature main method. So something will handle that. Let me just continue now. Next, let me put something into this file. So I have maybe a string line, and this is no, this is my information. So I have this line, let me call it line number 1, and then I could have line number 2, my second line. Now I want to put this information into file input stream. Very easy. I just call method write. So write information into the file, and there is a small trick here. This is what I have. Maybe again there is some exception handling needed. Add exception method signature. Okay, now I have more general input-output exception in my, because creating service to write a file could have some error. Now, writing into that service could have some error, and all of that errors we should react somehow, and that's why we have now this throw IO exception, input-output exception. Hmm?
For me, it doesn't underline it on my.
Okay, good for you.
Maybe.
So hopefully it will work. We'll see now. And for example, I close my kind of service to write a file, so I do my work in clean way. So let me explain what happened here, and then we will see if I succeed or not. So I get my file output stream, this specific object to write file, which will write in my file.txt. And I call method write, and I access my string and get specific method get bytes, because when we write files, this is at the end of the day, this is zeros and ones, right? Everything is zeros and ones, so we just put this convert that string into zeros and ones, and put that into write method, and that's it. We do it with one string, we do it with second string, and we just close this service, this method, and free the memory, which is also quite important. Let me run it and see if it works. So finish it with exit 0. Seems it works. So let me now check. You see I can't make it bigger, but you see my txt here in my root, in my folder of the project. In my root, I have this my file txt. Yeah, and everything in one line, so we will fix it in a moment. So you could see that we basically really created a file, and we really put some information in that file. I could even edit that file. Let me edit it in such a way. This is how I want to edit that. And let me come back where it was to my example. And I want to add break line. Oops. And let me run it one more time. And let me come back to my file txt. And now you see that we recreated this file, like we renewed contents of that file, and now we have 2 lines. This is what we need. So quite easy, quite easy. Now let's do vice versa. Let's read from file. Very similar stuff. So I create file output stream. Let me call it in such a way to be more quick. New. And again, I put name of the file, my file, txt. Since I create that, then let me just read it line by line. So that's why I create a for loop. Or let me see how to do that in a better way. Let me create while loop. Until I reach the end of the file, I will read the contents of the file line by line. So yeah, before that, I will create scanner. You already know what is scanner. Now you understand it better. Input. Output, it is when we write file, we output, but here we input. We read file, and of course we need file input here. And of course scanner could read from file input. So I just messed the kind of service to read files. Sorry for that. So now I believe we will not have problems. And now let's just read this file line by line. Okay, I read it. What should we do? Maybe we could basically output just here. Line. Okay. Now let me just comment all previous code with our
Could you show the one below? 1 second.
this one. Now let me explain that. So we have, again, file input stream, because we want to input information from file to our program. And we put this input stream into our scanner, which you already know what is that. And we scan the file, and we scan next line in a loop until we have one more line in the file. When the end of the file will be reached, we will stop the loop. This is the idea. Do you understand that? Let's run it and let's see if it works. I have some question in chat, I see. So we have basically everything is working. Now to show you that this is working, let me add new information. So I added this information here, some unstructured lines of something, of text. And let me run it. So you see that we successfully read all the file, including empty lines. So it is not so problematic to read files. But the most interesting stuff, I will share a little bit, so focus your mind I want to jump into the most interesting stuff regarding files. Because in most cases, you don't want just to save unstructured text, but you want to save some structured information. For example, list of students. So let's try to do that. John Brown, Peter. For example, we have this information. Let's start with this particular example. And we want to read this information and maybe create objects of students or people which will be structured, and maybe put that into array list. So let me do this stuff. Maybe in this file, I will create class person. So I need two fields. I will make them public. And I will create constructor of this small class person with, of course, we could put that initialization fields here, name, string, last name, and we access that and assign that information in constructor and initialize our fields from constructor. So we have this very simple very simple class, and let me also add method, for example, print. And this method will just print this information about this person. So I access my name, add space, and access last name. And maybe put some additional information before that, like person. Okay, very simple class with two fields, with constructor and with print method. This is structured information. Now, let me create array list of such class. Array, oops, what is that? Array list. What should I put into these brackets? Not string. Array list of what? Person. Exactly. I could put anything I want. So I created just custom class, and I just want to have collection of these objects of this class. Persons. And I create new empty array. Now, I want to access this file, and I want to take information about persons from this file and put that into this array list. I have almost everything I need, and now I should play with that. What I want to do, in my file, I have information in such a format. And so on and so forth. So what is here? Let me remind you. Name. This is name. And what is here? So, question to you. You are a kind of computer, and you should automatically scan this file and understand where name, where is last name. How will you do that? Okay, split. First of all, you want to take this one line, right? Then you want split this string. You want split this string in two strings. How will you split? By space. This is idea what we want to do. So we want to split this string, and we should get array of strings with, in 0 element we will have name, and first element we will have surname. We want to have this array of strings. Execute in split method. This is basics of text parsing. We have it everywhere in programming. So let's do it. So I declare array of strings. And I take my line of file and run split method for this line and put split breaker, let's say, which is space. After that, hopefully, if everything is fine, I will have this exact array. Now, I want to create new object of person. Person. Let it be P equals. I create a new object, person. And now into constructor, I should pass name and surname. What will I pass here? Help me.
Array index. Array 0.
0. Okay. What next? I will do it more visual in such a way.
Array 1.
Let me put it here. and array1. Sorry for these yellow lines. It is quite annoying, but I suppose there is no error there. It's just don't like this visualization. I should remove this sonar hint. Sonar hint for professional programming, so it's not suitable here. Let me do it. Okay, so, and then what I want to do? I have collection of objects. What should I do now? I have this collection, persons. I read my file. I get first person. What next?
Adds a person to ArrayList.
Persons. Add. And I add my new P person. So guys, what do you think about this algorithm? Do you understand that? We read file line by line. We take one line. We split this line into parts.
If we use like split like some letter, then it will be split by the letter, yeah. Like
And
Yeah.
symbol.
Yeah.
Can we
Yeah.
is split only characters or can we input strings?
Strings.
Magnificent.
Yeah. Yeah. You could create your own format for storing anything you want. So exactly, and this is pretty good, pretty interesting. So let's ensure that everything is fine. So let me run for loop for person persons. So I have this for each loop, and I get on each iteration object of person from that collection of persons. And what I want just call method. Do you remember we have wonderful method print here? I want just call this method. Print. To be sure that everything works correctly. Ta-dam. So let's jump into that. You see what we had. Now let's play with our file. So I come to file, my file txt, and I want to add more and more persons. Of course, this particular, what I do have no any sense because this repeated persons. But you could kind of feel, even if, when you work with your input, with your default values, with your algorithms, it is so cool to have file and to change it one time and just use it many times and not to input each time into console new information. So again, let me run it to see if everything is fine. So you see, we just successfully read all the file. And we have now this file in structured objects. What's interesting, that we could easily do the same when we store the persons. Do you agree with that? How would you store this collection into file? What are your actions? You have collection of objects of person. Okay. But what will you do here on this, in this work with file output stream and storing the information? What will you do there?
Like create a new object of file output stream class and then
Yes.
Using write method in the loop, for example.
In the loop. So we have loop for what?
Our array list.
Array list. We traverse our array list, we loop and we come to each person, and then what?
We like array list. Is our name and last name public or private?
Public.
So we just type them like from each object in this class.
Yeah.
We just print them.
So we just create our string, and we put name from object here, we add space, and we put surname from object. So we have new line, and we put this line using that file output stream, we put line here. Then in for loop, we come to second object, and we put new line here, and new line here, and new line here. And we can, after that, successfully read that lines with mechanism of reading the file, right? So it's pretty obvious way to do things. I want to show you just one more interesting stuff. Let's just add one more field. Year of birth of integer. Let's add this field. Year of birth. So let me change my constructor. Int year of birth. And year of birth equals year of birth. So we changed a little bit constructor. We add one more public field of integer. And let me also check or change my file. So I will delete all this unneeded stuff. So let's add year of birth. So for example, 2005, 2002, maybe something like that, and so on. So we changed structure of our file, and we want not only read name and last name, but also year of birth. So how to do that? Let's come back here, and now we should pass one more information here. So now we have not only these two lines here, but one more line with year, right? But we should transfer that information from string to integer. So this is what we should do. And I could, what shall I do? Let me try to do this. Parse int, and I access my third element. So not so complex. And then when I output, I also maybe should add year of birth. And add year of birth in my class, right? So do you see changes what I performed, what I did? Do you see what that means? Okay, good question. Why can't we just put array, for example, like this? Yes, because array square brackets number 2 will we will get string value, but in our constructor we need to get integer value. So our aim is to transfer string value into integer value, and one of the way to do that is call this method for integer, or you could find in other ways to do that, but the essence is that in this line we take string value, and from this string value create integer value. This is the aim of this line. Okay? Makes sense? Let's try to do that, to run this code. So you see, we get fully structured information in our program with specific data types, string, and integer, from simple text file. And this text file you could edit, you could add as many lines as you want, or you could even do it programmatically in program, and this is kind of your database. You could create your own database, you could store your data, you could run your program, you could close your program, you could come back to your program tomorrow, open that program, and you will have your data. So this is very kind of important information in regard to files. Now let's make a pause.